The original Gear Club, which released last year, was an unnecessarily expensive and buggy port of the successful free-to-play mobile game. A year on, and developer Eden Games has had another crack at the simulation racing market with the Switch exclusive Gear Club Unlimited 2. Is this where I should say something clever like, does the sequel take the checkered flag or is it still the pits? I won't know, so let's not stall any longer and speed on with the review of Gear Club Unlimited 2 on the Nintendo Switch. Cliched racing puns are quite a good lead into this game, as it's full of them. You start with a small, underpowered car with the aim of earning enough money for a series of races to upgrade it, and then eventually to buy a slightly more powerful car from one of the showrooms dotted around the map, and so the loop goes on. The races are delivered in a fairly linear fashion, although the overworld map gives false hope of something more grandiose. It's not the worst idea of a user interface in the world, but it would have been nice if the map you selected your next race from was a little more representative of the locales of that race, such as having snow-capped mountains, but it's just a very basic flat texture map. Not that there are many locales, there's just 4 main biomes: desert, forest, ice and coastal, each of which you'll have to race through many times in the game's 200 odd races. They do feel slightly different to each other in terms of how the cars handle on them, which is nice. There is an oddity on the snow tracks though, with the AI cars seeming to float above the track surface rather than drive on the slippy stuff. Hopefully that can be patched out, as it looks just ridiculous. Whilst the locations are fairly forgettable on the whole, I did enjoy driving the routes set out in them, with some of the layouts being tricky enough to get your attention, and careful braking and even drifting with the handbrake on is required if you're going to stand a chance of securing a good time. It's more often the clock you are racing against, as the AI put up little challenge, so ensuring you are racing clean and fast around the track should see more victories than not. One way to ensure that is by switching off, or at least absolutely minimising, the driving assists on offer, which hinder more than they help. If you don't want to race the AI, there are some new multiplayer offerings this time around. The asynchronous races appear inside a new club feature, where you can create or join an existing club with your friends and then race against other players in different events, which, similarly to the first game, rotate out in real-world timed intervals. Actual head-to-head multiplayer racing is coming in a patch and is a first for the series, but I have to say, from how the rest of this game has been developed, I'm not holding out much hope that that's going to work very well. Talking of looks, let's have a look at the graphics. So visually, Gear Club 2 is a mixed bag. Some of the locations look quite nice, with some nice vistas and lighting, but they are often let down by a lack of environmental effects, such as dust and snow etc. being kicked up. There's also no physical damage to the cars, which is odd. When you smash into a barrier at 130 miles an hour, you just kind of bounce off unharmed. So with no dust and no car damage, the models remain pristine throughout the race. The car models themselves are quite nice though, nothing that will turn heads from Forza or GTS, but remember the Switch is basically a tablet and they do the job nice enough. The UI is clean and functional, although some of the mechanic models in the garage are laughably robotic. Overall, graphics get a 7 out of 10. So how about the sound? Well, the sound isn't up to the same modest levels as the graphics. Car sounds are very generic and things like barrier crash noises and skids begin to grate very quickly. Besides a small piece of music in the menus, there are no other sounds in the game. What is here is functional though, but it's not going to win any awards sonically, and sound gets a 5 out of 10. So gameplay was always going to make or break Gear Club Unlimited 2. The first game I found to be nearly impossible to play, as the cars would often just pull themselves to the side of the track when you applied the smallest amount of steering. But I'm happy to say that issue has been addressed for the most part in the sequel. As mentioned earlier, the AI put up little fight really, and if you do end up racing in a pack it can be a frustrating affair, as the AI stick rigidly to a set driving line and will gladly drive into you if you dare stray onto their path. It's best to let them have the line and find an alternative way around them, which to be honest is not too difficult. Despite the flaws, there are absolutely some good times to be had here though, and I'm not sure why. The actual feel of driving feels just enough on the edge to keep you focused, and the tracks on the whole are quite interesting. It may be the case that the sum of its parts are adding up to something more than they should do. Gameplay gets a 7 out of 10 from me, although there are many things that need improving. Just a couple of final things that are worth mentioning about the game, and the biggest of which are the loading times, which are just awful. I noted earlier that the races are now longer in length, and thank goodness really, as loading them in can take around a minute most of the time. This is far too long, and I hope it can be addressed, but I'm not holding my breath. Aside from a few other minor niggles, the second big issue is the price. This game is priced at a full AAA title with a UK price of £55 or $60 in the States. That is absolutely ridiculous, and I'm sorry to say it will be reflected in the final score. Even at half that price, this game has enough issues to make you question its value. So in closing, the racing simulation genre is definitely underrepresented on the Switch. The original Gear Club really tried to fill that niche, but ultimately its greedy price and mobile routes left fans wanting more. Since then we've had the very decent MotoGP 18 and the announcements that V-Rally 4 and Grid Autosport are also arriving on the Switch very soon, so that niche is being filled up nicely, and Eden Games really needed to step it up with Gear Club 2. It's really not the worst racing game around, and it's annoying that some of the niggles are quite small and could easily be patched out or improved upon. The new handling model is a big plus and make the actual moment-to-moment driving quite exciting at times, but a myriad of technical issues and long load times and that incredibly high price means I can only recommend this if you're absolutely desperate for something more realistic than Mario Kart and can overlook some of the issues that I've mentioned here. There's also a physical version of the game, which I don't doubt will be in second-hand bins very soon, and if you can pick one up for around about the £20 mark, then you should get some decent enjoyment out of the game. But overall, I'm going to be giving Gear Club Unlimited 2 on the Nintendo Switch a 6.5 out of 10. Thank you very much for watching the review. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed that, or dropping me a like for the video, really appreciated. And also drop me any comments below if you're thinking of picking the game up and have any questions, then I'll be happy to try and help you. If you want to have a look around my channel, I've also got some videos on V-Rally 4, which came out this week as well. It's also a racing simulation game, so you might want to have a look at some of those and see if that compares better to Gear Club. I'll be doing a full review on that pretty soon, but there's plenty of videos there to give you a good idea of what that's all about. But until then, I will bid you farewell and catch you on the next video. See you later!